All right, everybody, welcome back to Rivalry Photos. I did want to just ask y'all as we get into this video to go to my other channels. I got a couple other channels that are out there. One of them is called Elvis and the Legends. So type in Elvis and the Legends. It looks just like this, and subscribe because I'm going to start putting some of the singing, some of the me singing like Elvis on there. Some of y'all are going to be interested in that. Some are not. I respect it either way. There are some very hardcore Elvis fans that don't want to hear anybody singing an Elvis song besides Elvis, and I totally get it. And then there's some people that love it. They love having another small little memory of an Elvis song, and they like tribute artists. And I don't go out there doing shows as a tribute artist because I feel like I don't know. I always felt silly, and I had a chance to sing with the Jordanaires and go on the road. And it's a long story right there, but I do love singing like Elvis Presley. Sometimes I love singing some of his songs, and and I sing them because I have a great mad love for Elvis. I have a mad love for the soul, his musicality, for his emotions, the emotions that he put into songs. He sang a cover song like it was his song. And that's what everybody says out there when I do shows, and I do mostly country music, and I do our own stuff as well. We got 2-3 records. I think we got 3 or 4 albums on iTunes and iHeartRadio and stuff. And then I've got songs of my own. If you just type in Joe Sins country music, you'll see Reverb Nation. There's probably 30-40 songs I cut just myself that are originals that I wrote. But that being said, when I cover songs, a lot of people say, "Hey, you do it better than the original artist." And the only reason people would say that is because I think I dug a little secret out of Elvis, is to put 180% of yourself into a song. That's what he did. He changed things around, his musicality, his emotions. So anyways, Elvis and the Legends and the Sins Country. And apologize for taking the moment here to kind of advertise those 2 channels, but I might as well grow them, because those of you that want me to do some live singing, or you want to hear the country music of my wife and I, now you know where to find it. Over here on the left side on your screen is Elvis and the Legends, and over on the right is going to be the Sins Country. So without further ado, I'm going to get back to where I was when I started out this video and begin talking about Child Bride. All right, welcome back to Rivalry Photos. I appreciate y'all watching the videos lately, and of course we're beginning to read some of From Here to the Great Unknown and providing some commentary on that, as well as continuing my Army Days with Elvis over here, and then Elvis and Kathy here, which is a big favorite of everybody. Well, of course, Child Bride. We are 86 pages into this as we are continuing to read sections and discuss it, and discussing, reviewing, all that good stuff. But yeah, so obviously, just to recap what's gone on with Child Bride, we went through Priscilla's childhood years. We have gone through some of her early teenage years. We've gone through where she met Elvis, meeting Curry Grant. Some of the chapters that we have kind of read and discussed throughout this series so far is right here. You got Anne's story about Priscilla's mom, The Secrets Begin, which really discusses the father passing away, and then Priscilla being stolen away from her grandparents. Priscilla, Little Girl Lost, Fantasies of Elvis, talking about how she fantasized of Elvis, even though she said she was never an Elvis fan. She was an Elvis fan since she was a young girl, before her teen years even, and then her preteen years. Stage Mother, which is about Anne, Secrets Revealed, Sex Pot, The Myth Unravels, The Faustian Bargain, Trading Her Virginity, supposedly, according to Curry Grant, for a meeting with Elvis. Imagine If, that was the game that she played with her friend for years and years and years, and the Imagine If person was always Elvis for Priscilla, which once again, contradicts everything she said, that she was not an Elvis fan. Priscilla in Wonderland, Question of Virginity, where there's some interviews with Curry and Priscilla. And then we are on Dark Fairy Tale right now. So make sure you like, subscribe, hit all notifications. If you're wondering where the rest of the sections of this book is, while we look at a few pictures here, what you're going to do is you're going to click on Rare Elvis Photos, which is actually right there below the video. And then you're going to select the child bride onto the playlist of the podcast. I think the playlist has Elvis and Priscilla something, but the podcast is the one you want that says child bride. That's Priscilla's real father there. That's Priscilla's mother, Anne, who wanted to be a famous person herself. Jamie Wagner, Priscilla's real father. Pictures right there of Anne, Priscilla, and Priscilla's real father. Then you got little Priscilla there. The dad again. Priscilla at 13 in the very center right there. Got Priscilla right there as a cheerleader. That's what a shy person does, right? They cheerlead. Mature-looking 8th grader at Del Valle, the year before she met Elvis. And then you get Elvis right there, and his friends right there. And what we're talking about is we're looking at for Curry Grant. That's next to Elvis right there. Curry Grant. He was close to Elvis. And that was 1960. Long after, what we're going to get in the book here, long after Priscilla said she told Elvis that Curry tried something on her and Curry was banished. Well, obviously there's proof. He wasn't banished. Curry Grant, 77, standing. So anyways, we'll look at these pictures later on too, but let's get started, with the reading of this book. We are on chapter 13 right now, Dark Fairy Tale, and it's just getting interesting. We're getting some details, some dark lyric details coming out, so let's discuss it when we get to the next chapter as well. All right, during Priscilla Beaulieu's 5-month interlude with Elvis Presley in Germany, one thing was certain. She was a 14-year-old girl who was in far over her head. Her, quote-unquote, friendship with Elvis, as her parents later characterized it to the media, was not the innocent fantasy they described. It was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And Anne and Paul Beaulieu were too taken with Elvis's celebrity and their daughter's adolescent infatuation with a man of such importance to notice or intervene. When Lamar Fike pulled up to the Beaulieu's to fetch Priscilla in the early evening and then to drop her off at 1 or 2 in the morning, her parents did not communicate. He just picked her up and brought her home. Priscilla had a succession of drivers from October on. Lamar, who joked with her and called her Baloo. Maybe that's how I go, Babaloo, Babaloo, Baloo. Joe Esposito, Elvis's father Vernon, sometimes with his new blonde girlfriend, Dee Stanley, the estranged wife of an Army sergeant. Priscilla's parents, and on the rare occasion, Elvis himself. Joe, who got to know the Beaulieux slightly, also recalled that Anne really liked Elvis a lot. Those in Elvis's inner circle who saw Priscilla's parents rarely regarded them as a nice, ordinary couple. Paul Beaulieu, to them, was a figure in the military, in the background in the military uniform, and Anne was friendly, though slightly reserved. There were questions when one peered more closely of a darker, gothic side to Priscilla's home life. Sunhild Ernst, a 16-year-old Wiesbaden girl, babysat for the younger Beaulieu children a few times that fall. She stopped after an incident with Paul Beaulieu. When he drove me home, she said years later, he was drunk and hit on me, or tried anyway. Suni, as she was called, lived near the Beaulieux and was Curry and Carol's regular babysitter. She agreed to help out the Beaulieux when Carol called her one day saying that Paul and Anne could not find a sitter. But after he tried to hit on me, that was it. I said, forget it, I don't need this. Priscilla's stepfather, by Sunia's observation, was a drunk. On the last night she babysat for their children, Paul propositioned her as soon as they left the Beaulieu's house. There was no physical contact because I would have gotten out of the car. I just said, look, I'm not interested. And then I kind of said, forget it. No, At the time, I wasn't allowed to go out or date or anything like that. And then to have some old captain coming on to you, that's kind of scary. I was glad to get out of the car. Suni stayed away from the Beaulieu's after that. Suni, who also babysat regularly for Curry and Carol's 2 small daughters, never had a problem with Curry. He liked the ladies, she said, but he was always a gentleman. He never crossed the line. Albert Curry Jr., a football player at H. Arnold, who was a year older than Priscilla, spent the night in the maids' quarters of the Beaulieu's basement a few times after football games the next fall, a school practice for athletes who lived in the dormitories. He remembered his first extended encounter with Captain Beaulieu. Well, he came down to talk to him about the football game, and he had a drink in his hand, and he was drunk, and he wouldn't leave. Priscilla's father always had a drink in his hand, Albert recalled, every time I stayed with him, from morning until night. Mother too. Cognac all the time. Of course, over there, it was like running water. So that's something to talk about. They were drunks. Both of the parents were drunks. Um, that's what Albert Corey is saying. That every time he was there, she had a drink, he had a drink, from morning till night. That's just how do you grow up in an environment like that? You turn into somebody that maybe manipulates and tries to get their way because their parents, they can't reason with their parents, or maybe the parents are so lax that the parents let them do whatever they want to do. Um, it's just not a normal, natural situation. So that's, once again, I know people know that I don't like the Priscilla that is out now, the Priscilla that we see that we've had. I do feel bad for the Priscilla that was younger. I just do. To grow up in an alcoholic house, which is abusive and an addicted house, you know. Anyhow, so let's continue. Let's see what else they say. So, of course, over there, the alcohol was like running water, it says. Suni also remembered Anne Boyu drinking heavily on the nights that she babysat. Priscilla would be at Elvis's house, according to Suni, still not home by 1 or 2 in the morning when the Boyus returned. Paul and Anne never asked where Priscilla was. When they come home, they were both sloshed. She always went right to the bedroom, and you could tell the way she was weaving. Suni, Ernst, and Al Corey's recollections were consistent with Mike Edwards' later impression of Paul Boyu as an alcoholic, the dark secret of military life. There's a lot of alcoholism in the military, observed Katie Neese, a classmate and acquaintance of Priscilla's. I think it's a way of coping, and of course in Germany there wasn't a drinking age, and for the most part, people drank. In a military family, another Wiesbaden friend of Priscilla's, Joe Delahan, stated, what goes on and what people see on the outside and how dysfunctional it is something else. But I would say, as a typical military family, the Boyus had problems. Priscilla's dad was kind of a hard... Yeah, that. When Suni babysat, she noticed how intimidated the rest of the family was by Paul Boyu. They weren't happy, she said. It was not a happy home. The whole behavior of the children, quiet when he was around. He was, to a certain extent, a male chauvinist, like he was head honcho, and that was it. Robbie Jones, who attended summer school with Priscilla the next year and visited the Boyus' house several times, formed the same impression. I'm not sure that Priscilla had really a joyful home life, she recalled. I think she had a stepfather, and I don't think she was abused or anything. But I compare it to my life, and I have wonderful parents. So interesting. I don't think she was abused or anything. We've talked about that. What if she was? Would that explain, some of the, it happened to me. I turned out okay. She'll turn out fine. That sort of thinking, that behavior right there. Is it possible? Sure, anything's possible. Especially when you have an alcoholic father that's not blood to you. Okay, here we go. Priscilla had been brought up in an atmosphere of illusion, and it extended to her intense clandestine romance with Elvis, which continued throughout the fall as she adjusted to high school. By day, she attended classes with other 14-year-olds, pretending to study world history in German, trying earnestly to blend in. When 7 o'clock rolled around, her chariot awaited, driven by Lamar or one of Elvis's other merry band of men. I had to put the merry band of men there. And of course, she would ride off to her secret nightlife of sex, adult parties, and midnight celebrity confessions. Interesting. This is Suzanne Finstead writing that. Now, she didn't get sued by Priscilla. So she's stating here that Priscilla went off to her secret nightlife of sex, adult parties, and midnight celebrity confessions. It was a schizophrenic, extraordinary existence, and it was taking its toll on Priscilla. Cliff Gleaves perceived her as overpowered. Every human being that she was around was older. It was sort of another world for her, so that could stifle a younger person's personality. Missing was that confident, effervescent Priscilla of the Valley fame, queen of her domain. She had been replaced by an insecure adolescent under normal pressure, striving desperately to fit in. Now, what if she was still pretending? She went there, she pretended to be a certain way, and she really wasn't a shy person. That's a possibility there. And of course, to the outsider, Cliff Gleaves wasn't around all the dang time. He was around a little bit here and there. His idea, his impression of her, everybody knew, don't you mess with Elvis's girl. So she's going to be shy anyways. Um, all right, so let's continue here. And let me know what you think in the comments about that. All right, so where are we at here? Missing was a call. Got that? Okay, so all right. She'd been replaced by an insecure adolescent under enormous pressure, striving desperately to fit into an unreal adult scene to sustain the attention of her teen idol. I know I didn't eat. I couldn't eat, she said years later. I remember Elvis's grandmother always trying to get me to eat. I was always starved and feeling hungry, but never wanted to look silly eating. I was afraid I was going to have something in my mouth. You know how when you first meet somebody, and he always tried to get his grandmother, to get me something to eat, some bacon sandwiches, things like that, but I never ate. Linda Williams, Priscilla's classmate in Austin and Wiesbaden, noticed a personality change in her. Priscilla went from being a fun-loving, outgoing bit of a clown at Popham and DeVal to being a more somber and serious person. She had sort of withdrawn, Linda remembered. We stayed friendly, but we weren't really friends. Priscilla had been drawn into a complex, stressful adult situation. Her relationship with Elvis forced her to face issues and situations that were beyond the grasp of a teenager. Now, I had another burden that I was concerned about. Him and his welfare, she said, when she was 50. I was concerned about his career. I was concerned about his acceptance after being in the Army for 2 years. My problems now were not my own problems. They were someone else's problems that I inherited. Now, I understand the psychology of that. She had no friends. Part of this as an aspect. Now, she had no friends. She did have guy friends from what we've read about in this book. She had no friends. Part of this as an aspect of Priscilla's celebrated aloofness may have been psychological in origin. For children who are taught to keep secrets often grow up to be observers. They may find it difficult to talk, fearful that they may reveal what they have sworn to keep private. Priscilla's secrets now included a sexual relationship with Elvis Presley. How could another 14-year-old possibly relate? It might have contributed in her own mind to being far more sophisticated, as her high school principal, John Reddington, opined. That she was in on secrets and other girls just giggled about or talked about behind their hands. I guess hands up to their mouth, yeah. After all, the secrets of sex are great secrets. What is also mystifying about Elvis's sexual liaison with a 14-year-old was that nobody questioned it. Everybody seemed to have a rationalization for looking the other way. Vernon Presley, Elvis's father, chose to ignore the Priscilla predicament and projected Lamar because he had his own deal going, dating someone else's estranged wife. Gerda, Cliff's fashion model girlfriend, would not comment later on how she felt about Elvis dating a 9th grader. Well, I'd rather not answer that, she said. I don't know how old she was. When I met her, I could tell she was young. Priscilla's principal at the time, Leslie Murray, didn't think it was a concern at all, and certainly her parents would be the responsible party for that sort of thing. Lamar Fike reportedly hooted and hollered at Elvis, God almighty dang, 18's one thing, but 14, my God, there's a law called statutory rape and it applies everywhere, I think. Elvis, so the story goes, said he had spoken to her parents and he was all right with them. Priscilla's defense of her parents in her book Elvis and Me was weak and unconvincing. By her 4th date with Elvis, she wrote, Dad had laid down the law. If you want to continue seeing Elvis, we're going to have to meet him. My parents weren't so enthralled with his celebrity status that they were willing to compromise their principles. Now, I want to interject here. They had no problem with this. What they wanted is they wanted the benefit of saying they met Elvis Presley. And maybe to impress upon him that they know what's going on, and, he better, better marry that girl if he gets her in trouble. Maybe something like that. All right. As long as they met Elvis, it was acceptable for the 9th grade daughter to stay in bed until 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. Curry and Carol Grant just shook their heads in wonderment. Her parents used to take her there and drop her off after she got to know Elvis, Curry recalled. And Carol and I both thought, man, if they only knew what was going on, it's like leading the lamb to slaughter. Dee Stanley, the soldier's wife who eventually married Elvis's father, accompanied Verdon when he drove Priscilla home. It's almost like selling your child when you really get down to it, she later remarked. Okay. A child at the age of 14 going home. In high school at 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, that's definitely not natural, is it? Whispers of scandal were ever swirling, recalled H.H. Arnold's schoolmate Donna Wells. There was chatter around the school because apparently her parents were not discouraging the relationship. Though Priscilla was nothing if not discreet, her romance with Elvis Presley was too provocative to remain a secret. Now, before Christmas, Elvis fired an eccentric South African pseudo-dermatologist named Laurence Grisel Landau, who made a pass at him during his skin treatment. Landau later wrote several letters to Elvis, threatening to expose his teen lover and ruin him. Charges that made its way to the FBI files before Landau dropped it. Okay, Gerta Heilemann would later marry Elvis's close friend, Cliff Gleaves, regarded Elvis as protective of Priscilla, mindful that she not be touched by scandal. Perhaps that was why, late fall, Priscilla did something entirely out of character. Her school held a slave auction with boys bidding for the services of a female student, to carry their books and run errands for them for a day. Priscilla, because of her beauty and the Elvis mystique, generated the most money. She was pitted against a junior, Donna Wells. Though they barely interacted, she came and asked me if I would like to go to a party at Elvis's place, Donna recalled. Back then, Elvis wasn't the cultural icon that he is today. People either were into somebody like him or they were not. Now, I was not, she said. I wasn't sure what her motive was in asking me because I didn't know her very well, and I said no. Then she came back another time, about 2 weeks later, and asked would I care to come with some other American teenagers, and I agreed. My curiosity got the better of me. Donna found the evening strange and discomforting. Should be discomforting. Maybe discomfiting. Discomfiting. She said that Elvis and Priscilla were there, as were some people from Frankfurt High School whom I didn't know. Elvis's dad, it says, was there, I believe, and his grandmother. It was an uncomfortable situation. I was uncomfortable with the idea of meeting someone who was in his 20s. GIs weren't supposed to be dating or spending time with American girls. Here he was having parties, meeting some of the kids. I remember I went into the kitchen with Grandma and made popcorn for everybody. And Elvis and Priscilla disappeared shortly after. And the rest of us didn't know anybody from Adam and were left standing with a few GIs and Grandma and Dad. It was kind of odd. To Donna, Elvis and Priscilla seemed smitten with each other. Shy, kind of. Though the Lolita aspect disturbed her. She was a little girl, really, in a lot of ways. She didn't act any older than her age, except she was kind of a self-possessed person. She wasn't giggly. And other teenagers who had been recruited for the evening felt like we were kind of a shield of respectability. Despite her unnatural circumstances, by many accounts, Priscilla was cool, calm, and collected when she was at Bad Nauheim with Elvis. Whatever awkwardness she felt paled beside the sheer force of her ambition. Priscilla was almost inhumanly focused. She kept her eyes on the prize, always. Yeah, well, I did feel out of place, she admitted in a revealing conversation when she was 50. They were all older, but my main purpose was not to be with anybody. It was just to be with him. Now that she was authentically dating Elvis Presley. Priscilla's competitive nature set in. She wanted him all to herself. Priscilla's key rival for Elvis's affection was someone she had never laid eyes on. Her name was Anita Wood, a sweet, bubbly blonde from Memphis who had her own successful singing career. Elvis had been dating Anita since he had filmed Jailhouse Rock in July 1957. She was his first serious post-Deborah Paget romance. Since he arrived in Germany, Anita had been writing to him faithfully from Memphis, and Elvis called her from time to time. Priscilla knew of Anita before the Bayous moved to Wiesbaden. Once she gained access to Elvis's bedroom, she became obsessed with her. When he would be downstairs, she later confessed, every letter that he got, he had a stack on the night table. I would read them. Snoopy, 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 Priscilla, Snoopy, Prissy. Which once again, I guess when you're young, you're gonna be snooping. Priscilla had cause to be concerned, for Anita was no passing fancy. Elvis was charmed by this petite beauty and had affectionately named her Little for her size 4.5 feet. Feet which he and his mother called Sooties were one of Elvis's fetishes. Willie Jane Nichols, Gladys Presley's bosom friend, remembered how on the day his mama was buried, Elvis had thrown herself on her casket, wild to see her feet one last time. There was nothing perverse about it, according to Willie. Elvis was simply staggered by grief. Steady talking all the time, it was breaking your heart. He'd just sit on the doorstep and cry. Anita was with Elvis the day of the mother's funeral, and a Southern girl, she understood their intimate connection, the deep ties of family. He was just a real sweet, baby-talking guy was how she remembered him. She and Elvis, Anita declared, had talked marriage before he was drafted, but publicly downplayed their romance under the strict direction of Elvis's manager, Colonel Tom Parker. I was supposed to go to Germany to visit him, Anita said. I'd already had my shots, packed, and everything, but the Colonel put a stop to that. He's the reason I didn't get to go. Ninth grader Priscilla Bayou stealing glances at Anita's love letters. Where'd I go here? Oh, there. To Elvis while waiting to go to his bed, was sick to her stomach with jealousy. I just remember thinking, okay, I will cherish the time that I have with him as long as I'm with him, and I can't control what happens after he leaves. Anita, in the interim, had heard of Elvis's teenage playmate through the Presley grapevine, and he assured me all the time that he was over there he was such a good persuader that this poor girl, he had just a way of assuring me that nothing was going on other than a friend, another army man's daughter. They were just friends. She was so young. There was nothing to it. Elvis wrote a few letters to Anita from Germany, a rarity for him. Anita recalled that in one of the letters, he said when he got married, it would be to me. Priscilla anguished over Elvis's complicated love life and the specter of Anita Wood. That she did so alone, unable and unwilling to confide in anyone, is a remarkable feat for a teenage girl. She felt at times, she later told a magazine, cheap and unloved. But for all of her apparent fragility, Priscilla had a core of steel. I don't know where I get, or even now sometimes get the strength, she confided in 1996. I certainly couldn't tell him what he could do and what he couldn't do. All I knew was that the time I spent with him was totally devoted to him. And that's all I could do. I couldn't change his mind. I couldn't do anything. So if it was meant to be, it was meant to be. I've done what I could do, and that's basically how it worked out. Well, the next chapter that we're going to go over is called Sex and Rock and Roll. Suzanne Finstead. She writes the book almost as if she's a fan. That she defends Priscilla in a lot of ways, admires Priscilla. So the fact that she puts what she puts in here kind of reminds me of this. Riley put the abuse in there, put all the negativity in there, yet Priscilla, who probably knows it's true, probably knew that was all true in there. It's not like she's suing Riley. She didn't sue Suzanne Finstead. So, I want to know your thoughts on this, of course. And as I continue to read, I'm also going to be doing, maybe I'll do some Elvis and Kathy tonight, but this will probably be the morning time. So be on the lookout for that. And I appreciate all your support on the channel. Once again, this is the #1 fastest growing channel and the most interactive channel on YouTube by far. And it's y'all. It's y'all doing it. The thing is, yeah, I'm an artist. I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm a huge Elvis fan, just like y'all are. What's driving the channel is the love for Elvis, the love for Lisa. And, I don't take it for granted. I've always been the same sort of artist Elvis was. When I go play shows, doing wineries, I'm down talking to everybody at every table. On breaks, after the show, before the show. That's how Elvis was, and I think that's really what I became as an artist, and why I had the success I had, and I still have success. Um, I wouldn't want Elvis's pressure. That's just he had the most pressure of any human, I think, in history, besides, in my opinion, the Lord. Um, Somebody commented about this picture. Why does he look so mean? Why was that put on there? Was it Riley's doing? Anyways, love you guys. You ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful day. Like, comment, share the video, all that good stuff. Let me know who made it to the end. Some of y'all make it to the end of almost every video, and I get to see it. And I'll be sharing some comments later on. All right, TCB, TLC. This is Rare Elvis Photos. Until next time. That's all. That's all I got.